all I wanted to do is just to make a website. But that sent me down a rabbit hole of programming. And over the last 100 days, I've been on an intense learning journey. And today I'm going to share everything. My journey from absolute zero to building a real complicated website. My learning path, HTML, CSS, JavaScript and beyond. Common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Tools and resources I've used. The role of AI in learning to code. And my future plans and recommendations to people that want to learn programming. Let me start with my background. I began from absolute zero. I had no coding knowledge whatsoever. And to be honest, I still feel like I know very little about programming. But how much can you really learn in 100 days starting from scratch? Let's find out. The website I've built is an affiliate marketing media website with a lot of articles about software, technology, entrepreneurship and productivity. And for the first project, it was pretty damn complicated. But I wasn't alone in this journey. My brother, who's an experienced backend developer, helped me while I was focusing on the frontend. And for those who don't know, backend and frontend are two different kinds of programming. Backend is the server side, is the databases, it's how the app works internally. But the frontend is what the user sees and how he interacts with the app. And that was what I was doing. I started with HTML and CSS, which aren't even programming languages, but they served as my introduction to coding. HTML is a markdown language, is how the structure of the site works, so to speak. And CSS is the styling of this structure. First you create the content of the site in HTML, and then you attach styling attributes in CSS. For example, the size or color or font. And as I started building my website, every week I was amazed at how stupid my code was. Because my skill level was constantly growing and my cringe levels from looking at my previous code was also constantly growing. And I've discovered my stupidest mistake just recently. The main font I used wasn't actually working, but I was thinking that it's okay and that's just how it's supposed to look. But in fact, it was Times New Roman. So imagine my shock when after 3 months of developing the website, and when it's already in production, I discovered that the main font isn't actually working. But jokes aside, as a front-end, your real programming starts with JavaScript, which makes websites dynamic. And my biggest challenge was connecting the front-end with the back-end using JSON, ensuring the articles were sent and parsed properly by the server. The most important tip in learning how to program is to start with the project you genuinely want to build. If it wasn't for my website, I probably wouldn't have stuck with programming. So make sure your project actually interests you. And in this age of artificial general intelligence, where AI is going to be a better programmer than 99.9% of people, it is still important to learn programming fundamentals. You need to know how each line of your code is working. That is crucial. Take Elon Musk, for example. While he's not building the rockets himself, he's not some crazy rocket scientist. He is not. He just delegates the work to other people. But he still needs to have knowledge about rockets. And he has this extensive knowledge of how everything works, how engines work, how the rocket's supposed to work. So even if you're going to delegate all of your coding work to AI, you still need to know how it functions internally. But speaking of AI, there's a very important downside if you're going to use it while learning how to program. When I now encounter difficulties, I just ask AI to solve them for me. And that means I'm not really learning the hard way, but you're supposed to learn the hard way, or you never actually learn much. And as a result, I don't even know how to solve the easiest programming exercises, because I've become kind of lazy. I now convinced myself that I can't do much without AI. And that's probably true at the same time. So don't rely on AI too much, because you need to develop this problem-solving skill. And as a programmer, that's the most important skill you will ever have. Let's move on to the resources I've used to learn programming. For learning HTML and CSS, you don't really need much. I started with free Codecamp courses, which are free. But for JavaScript and React, I bought 2 $10 courses on Udemy, which I'm still working on. I finished the vanilla JavaScript course and now I'm on React. And since I work for myself and I have flexible hours, I have free schedule, I just dedicate entire days to learning programming, 3 or 4 days per week. So I can really dive deeper and focus on the programming for a long time. And also when you're learning, don't be afraid to look stupid. For example, my biggest challenge was connecting the frontend to the backend with JSONs. And my brother was explaining it to me. And he was always asking, are you getting it? Are you sure? And I was like, yeah, sure, I got it. But when our Discord call ends, I just can't do anything by myself. I just can't. It was because of my fear of looking stupid. But if you don't get something, especially from your senior colleague, always double ask. Don't be afraid to admit that you are confused. You will make a lot more progress by not being afraid of looking stupid. And that's not only in programming. For example, I'm making this video right now and sometimes I look stupid, but I'm not afraid of looking stupid because I know that I will progress further. And the more cringy you can be in the moment, the more the borders of your knowledge, of your skill set are expanding. And the current state of this website is that it's complete. But I also want to improve it. That's why I'm learning React and Next.js right now. When I started to learn how to program, I started with Cursor, which is a fork of VS Code, but also with AI on top. But right now I'm using Vim for cool points. So I can say I use Vim, by the way. You don't even need to use a mouse, like in every other text editor, like VS Code. With Vim, you can just use your keyboard. And even though it's pretty complicated and hard to learn compared to other text editors, but it will definitely improve my speed of coding. So let me show you what you can do with Vim. Vim has 4 distinct modes, which is already a lot more complicated than other text editors. It has normal mode, insert mode, console mode, and visual mode. I'm not really a Vim expert, but I know some shortcuts. Right off the bat, I use NeoVim, not Vim, because NeoVim is better. On the left, you can see all my favorite shortcuts. You can use, of course, the navigation. Down, up, right, left with the keys. You don't need to use a mouse here. Also, you can delete the whole row by pressing DD. Also, you can combine it with numbers. For example, if you press 10 and then D twice, you will delete 10 lines. You can also paste the lines you deleted by pressing P. You can also scroll up and down by using Ctrl-U or Ctrl-D. Also, you can jump to the end of the row by using $, and to the start of the row by using 0. You can also jump to the end of the doc by using capital G, so with Shift, and to the beginning of the doc by pressing G twice. Overall, I'm not some Vim expert and I don't know much about shortcuts here, I'm only learning, but I really like using it. It's a lot of fun. It's like playing Tekken. You're always using some kind of combination. Pretty much with these shortcuts you can do a lot more work in less time. And there are a lot more shortcuts that I don't even know. I've been using Vim for only a couple of days. Most people grow their skill of Vim even after using it for years. And I really like this philosophy of mastering the tools you're using. To be 100% efficient, you need to know how the tool works. You need to actually master it, and Vim itself forces you to grow as a developer. So I really recommend you to use NeoVim or Vim Motions. After you're familiar with Vim Motions, you can work so much faster. It reminds me of using my microphone wrong. I had this Blue Yeti microphone, and even though it was good, the sound was terrible because I was using it wrong. I was placing it wrong. And I discovered it by constantly changing the way I use it. The same philosophy may apply to your code editor. If you don't really understand how the tool works, you're not using it to its fullest potential. Let's move on to the front-end development timeline. How much you will learn in your first 100 days. First and foremost, you will learn HTML and CSS in a month, maybe a month and a half, and you will be a master of HTML and CSS, which is not that difficult. Then you start learning JavaScript, which is going to take your second month and probably the third month. In your first 3 months, you will probably learn how to use Terminal and how to use GitHub. Then you will actually start learning modern JavaScript development. React, Next.js, Node.js, maybe you will want to learn Tailwind CSS. There are a lot of stuff you will want to learn. As Socrates said, the more I know, the more I understand that I know nothing. But the things I found is that learning frameworks is kind of easier than learning the languages itself. Learning JavaScript was a lot harder than learning React, because every framework is kind of built on top of the language you already know. And if you have good fundamentals, you will learn frameworks pretty easily. That might sound strange, but learning how to program reminds me of boxing. But in boxing, you actually kind of know everything from the start. You know that you're supposed to punch, you're supposed to dodge, you're supposed to protect yourself at all times, as they say. And in boxing, you actually progress by repetition, by making the same move again and again and again, just to make it a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, a little bit more like stable, so to speak. But programming is different because you're always expanding your arsenal. You're always learning new syntax or new frameworks or the new ways to set up your developer environment and so on. And the most exciting part of learning any skill is to learning something new within this skill. So learning some new trick. The same thing with boxing. You learn, for example, how to sidestep or how to dive under punches, and that's exciting and that's fun, and you can then use it in your sparrings. The same thing with programming. You learn some new framework, for example React, and now I can use React for the same thing I was doing, but more efficiently. And even after learning how to program for 100 days, I still learn something new every day, and I know that I have like minuscule knowledge of programming. I know almost nothing, and the path to mastery is very long, and I have a plan to learn a lot of stuff in the future. I need to learn React, Next.js, I need to learn Node.js probably, I need to learn some backend stuff like Go or Python. I want to continue watching the computer science course I found on YouTube. I also want to know how the hardware works. Maybe I will start programming in C. And I also need to learn how to be efficient in Vim. The more I know, the more I understand that I know nothing. And I need a lot more time to learn. And that's exciting, at least for me. The programming itself is a long journey, and you need to be excited about it. And the best way to ensure that you're actually excited about programming is to strike a balance between fun and learning. It reminds me of the time when I started playing an electric guitar. I was terrible at it. I was probably worse than Sid Vicious on drugs. But I had so much fun by just strumming it, by just pretending that I'm on stage, by playing the same chords again and again, by playing my favorite riffs without actually learning them properly. I had no knowledge about music theory or something like that, but I had so much fun. But at the same time, I wasn't progressing in my skill at all. I wasn't disciplined about it. The secret to be a better programmer is finding the sweet spot between having fun with your side projects and structured learning. That's how you develop the skills and the passion needed to succeed. I wish you luck on your coding journey. If you want to continue watching my videos further, click this video right now. See ya.